Hi Year 9, here is your next lesson on Lord of the Flies. Our old word today that we're recalling is ignominious. So how would the behaviour of the boys on the island be considered ignominious? Now again, just to remind you of the word, because it's again a tricky one and one we haven't done for a while, it means deserving or causing public disgrace or shame. So behaving in a way that would call shame upon you, or that would mean you're disgraced. So how would the behaviour of the boys on the island be considered ignominious? So you can pause the video and think about the bad, shameful things the boys have done on the island. So our new word then is fiend. Okay, so fiend can be an evil spirit or a demon or someone who is very wicked and very cruel. So you can pause the video and write that down. So how about both Jack and Roger presented as fiends in the novel? So what wicked or cruel things do they do? And then our optional aiming higher question is, why does Golding choose to present little boys as fiends in the novel? Why have boys, these little public school boys? Why not have adults? Why did he focus on boys? So looking at our green question then, what sort of ignominious or shameful behaviour did the boys display? Well, they completely disregarded Ralph's rules. They wanted to play and have fun, focus on hunting rather than the logic of building shelters, finding food. They grew very bloodthirsty and became obsessed with hunting and the killing of the pig, this sort of ritualistic murder and sacrifice. They took pleasure in what started off as a game, this idea of, tying the boys up, torturing them, corporal punishment, this idea of punishing the children through physical harm. We then had the murder of Simon and Piggy, the fact that they were planning again on ritualistically murdering Ralph and beheading him and sticking his head on a stick for the beast. It is truly horrendous when you think about their behaviour. So when again you think of fiendish, how Jack and Roger, well, Roger obviously is the only boy on the island that creates or does a deliberate murder. He deliberately intended to murder Piggy, and he does. And it is Roger who is sharpening a stick at both ends. He is the one that intends to put Ralph's head on a stick. And remember, when Roger hears in chapter 11 that Jack is torturing Wilfred, he's excited at the idea of having a leader that will let him commit these atrocities, these awful deeds. But remember, Jack is Roger's enabler. Jack has enabled Roger to do all of these horrendous things because he is a dictator, because he has this complete control over the boys. So Jack is every bit as culpable as Roger in the awful things that happen. Jack is the one that is really responsible for the boys descending into savagery, and Jack's sort of bloodthirsty nature as well, this obsession of murdering, particularly the mother pig. He murdered that mother pig, that sow, the original Lord of the Flies head, and all of her piglets would have died. They would have been feeding on her milk. So he is a real destructive force on the island. So why then did Golding choose to present little boys as fiends? Well, we know that Golding was a school teacher in a private school, and we know that Golding felt that what lurked within every single human being was darkness and evil, and he felt that way due to World War II and the atrocities that not just the Germans, but also the British and the Allies. He didn't think that we were any better in the things that we did and things he was ordered to do. So by presenting little boys as being capable of this great evil, just makes his message more powerful, that actually none of us are immune to this darkness that lurks within us. So it just makes that message more powerful. So your knowledge goal today then is to analyse how the boys' descent into savagery is presented throughout the novel. So we're thinking more about, from the start to the end, how is that step-by-step process of that descent into savagery, breaking away from civilization. How does he present that? So by the end of the lesson, you'll know the series of events that charted the boys' descent into savagery, and then the significance of those moments that really showed that descent into savagery, and then sort of how these moments that you're going to pick out, how do those moments, those characters' actions, their speech, demonstrate that descent into savagery. So remember, one of the key themes of the novel is savagery versus civilization, as these two opposing things. And savagery comes at the expense, the breakdown of civilization. So this is one of the key themes of the novel, and Golding wrote the novel to show the potential mankind has for great savagery when not controlled through the laws of society. So civilization did is it repressed people's savagery because it gave you real consequences, you know, the punishment essentially. And we know that the boys are controlled at first through that remembrance of punishment. So when Roger's throwing the stones at Henry at the start of the book, we're told there's this almost invisible bubble around him, and he knows he can't actually hit Henry because the rules of society have made him, again, instinctively afraid of punishment. But when Jack becomes leader, he knows that that sort of behaviour will not be punished, and therefore he's free to be as savage as he likes. So I'd like to pause the video and have a go at answering this question. Why do you think he chooses to write about small boys on the island and not adults, and how does this affect his message? So think back to our aim higher question and use some of that to write a little bit more of a detailed explanation. So the work that you're going to do today is in your workbook. If you flick to near the back, you will see that after the work you did on chapter 12, it's titled Descent into Savagery. So you'll see that there is a grid, and what you need to do is firstly put a number near each of those events to try and put them in chronological order. Okay, so put those events in chronological order first. Then you'll see below that there is a graph, and you'll see that you've got a scale between civilized being high and savage being low, and you're going to plot each of those 10 events on the graph. Okay, whether you want to do it as a bar graph or a scatter graph, is that the one where you do the dots? Those students that have me will know that maths is not my strong suit. So the one where you do the dots, which I think is called a scatter graph, that's up to you. Then you'll see on the page opposite, it tells you to choose two events, one that shows civilization and one that shows savagery, and explain why that event you've picked shows civilization and why the other event you've picked shows savagery. Now, if you want to challenge yourself further, you could choose to complete that final task. So look at the graph and write an analysis of the development of the boys' descent into savagery. And can you link that to Golding's intention? So look at how the distribution of civilization and savagery is on that graph, and write an analysis of how that process changes throughout the novel. So you can pause the video and get on with that. Then finally, we have our final feedback slide. So ignominious, list the ignominious acts the boys committed on the island. And then fiend, how does the increasingly fiendish behaviour of the boys link to their descent into savagery? So how can you link this idea of being a fiend, being wicked, how does that link into the boys' descent into savagery? Okay, thank you very much, and I will see you tomorrow.